My name's Mando Mike, and welcome to this free lesson on how to play the Bill Monroe tune called the Lonesome Moonlight Waltz. This is part one. I'm going to split this lesson into two sections. In this one, we're going to focus on learning the melody for beginners and intermediates, and we'll talk a few things about it. And the melody to Lonesome Moonlight Waltz sounds a bit like this. For the next 15 minutes, we're going to break that tune down and talk about a few elements, and then at the end of this video we'll play it twice through so you can have a proper go at playing the tune and the chords. And we're going to start by looking at the time signature. Now this is called the Lonesome Moonlight Waltz. It's a waltz, but it's more commonly written in the time signature of 9/8. And 9/8, if you've not come across it, means there's 9 notes in a bar of 1/8 length value or quavers. So there's 9 quavers in every bar, a bit like this. Now you could count that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but no one wants to do that. We want to naturally group notes together. So the most common way of grouping 9/8 together is in 3 groups of 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then when we're counting it with reference to this tune, you can still count 1, 2, 3, 1, like you're doing a waltz. 3, 1, 2, 3. Where each one of those is one of the groups of 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hence why we can still play and count it as a waltz. Now this creates a little bit of a problem with our right hand, and this is one of the rare tunes where I'm not going to be too fussy with what your right hand's doing, because we essentially should be playing this as though it's in jig time, because its jig time is 6/8, so that's down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. And if you play it at 9/8, you're just adding another group of down, up, down to that original 6. But we're kind of playing it as though it's in 3/4. So you've kind of got a bit of a cross between two time signatures going on, which can make your right hand go a bit AWOL. So I don't want you to worry about it too much, but if you have downloaded the tab, and everything I talk about in this next 15 minutes is in a tab, which you can get for free below, I have annotated the way I think that the main phrases should be played, and I suggest you try and stick with that. But again, you've kind of got free rein with this one for your collection to do pretty much whatever it wants. So the main crux of the melody is contained in the first bar, and it sounds like this. And then it does that again in bar 2. That's the kind of main, you notice that rhythm's repeated all over. Da, 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 da. So that rhythm is kind of what the whole tune is built on. Now, the way I'm picking this is as follows. Down, up, down, up, down, down, up. I find that's the best way that works for me. If you find another way that works for you on those last 4 notes, that's fine. You might want to go down, 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 up, down. You could do that. But I find that the accented note is the first group of that group of 3 at the end of the bar. So this 5th fret, that's where your accent should be. So if I like that being a downstroke, hence why I go down, up, down, down. That's how I play it. It's up to you. Let's have a little play of the first line so you can kind of get into the rhythm of the song. I mean, I'm not going to put the metronome on just yet. We're going to do it quite slow. So it's a bit after 3. 1, 2, 3. now let's try the same thing with the metronome on. Hopefully you can hear that clicking away quietly in the background. So same thing again after 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so that's the phrase 1, and that's kind of the whole tune is built on that. So keep looping that back. Once you've got that phrase right, then the rest of the melody kind of follows those similar lines. And then just before we move on from kind of learning the basic melody, the B part is slightly different. It doesn't quite have the same rhythm. This time the B part just goes... Again, pick strokes could be all over the place in that one, and I'm not too worried about it. I hate myself for saying that, but for this one, let's just enjoy playing this melody. So what we're going to do now is let's just have a play of the whole B part, because you've kind of, once you've mastered that first phrase of the A part, you've mastered the A part. So let's play the B part together, and I'm going to put the metronome back on. So here's the whole B part after 3. 1, 2, 3. 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. So there's some tricky timings in there. The best way, in my opinion, of learning this is just to keep looping that little bit of video back, because I've got the metronome going, so I'm playing to the right speed. So just keep looping it back until you've got the timing of that B part correct. What we should do now is we should play the whole melody together. Now, sometimes everyone's version is slightly different. Sometimes you repeat the A part, sometimes you don't. In this version, we're not repeating the A part, so we're just going A, B, C, which is kind of a small repeat of the A part. So A, B, C is how we're doing it. The metronome will be set at the speed we've been doing at so far, which is 70 BPM. If that's too fast for you, you can use the cog down here to slow me down. And let's play it together. A, B, and then the last section to finish. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Second line. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. B part. 2, 3. 2, C part. 'In part 2 of Lonesome Moonlight Waltz, in a few weeks' time, or whenever you're watching this is part 2, we'll talk more about the chords. But for just this lesson, these are the chord shapes. You can use any chord shape you want. But if you're new to all of this, then your kind of 7 chord shapes that you need are D minor, 2001, something like that. F, which is 5301, and then a normal G, 0023, and then a nice normal A, 2200, and then C, which is very similar to your G, 0230, F7, now this is probably a new one to most of you. I've gone for this shape, which is 2, 1, 0. And we're not hitting this top string. That sounds a bit weird on its own, but when you go from F, kind of makes a bit more sense. And then finally, a nice open B flat, 3, 0, 1. And not hitting the Z string. So they're the chords that we're going to be using when we jam this tune later on. Before we have that jam, I just want to very quickly talk about how you improve this melody to make it slightly more intermediate. There's 3 little tricks that I've done just to make this into an intermediate standard tune. The first one is I quite like playing a lot of my open strings as 7ths. I quite like how that sounds. So for example, in bars kind of 2 and 3, you can go, that's what it was originally. Now you can change some of those opens to 7ths to, I quite like doing that, and I've slightly shifted my fingers down. You can see this now, so that 5th fret is 2nd finger, 1st finger is 3rd fret, and then my 3rd finger covers. I quite like doing that. You can see how that's doing there. That's number 1. Number 2 is very quick little slides into the start of each phrase. So if we take bar 1, for example, instead of just going for our first note, we can do a little. So it's a very quick slide from the 4th fret. So you basically pick the 4th fret and instantly slide up. Obviously the trick is to stop in the right place. So we don't want to hear this, and we want very quick, and I do that with a lot of the notes, so you can even do it on the 7th frets that we just did earlier. So sliding into those 7th frets. So that's number 2. And then the 3rd one, which is a whole can of worms that I don't want to go into, so I'll just say what I've done, is I've just added some double stops into the B part, just to kind of, so you can get a hint of what the chords are when you're playing the melody. Okay, so that's the 3 things I've done for the intermediate version. Now I want you to go away and just play it to yourself so you kind of know what you're doing, and then let's have a jam of it together. And I'm going to set the metronome back on at around about 70 BPM. I'm going to play it once through as the melody, and then I'm going to go straight back to the beginning and I'm going to play it once through with the chords. To start with, you should do the same as me, and then try it again but do the opposite of me, so we're kind of having a jam of it. From the top, twice through, no repeats. After 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3 part. 2, C part. 2, 3. Back to the top. 2, 3. 2, Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed playing that great Bill Monroe tune. There's plenty of examples of this on YouTube, so go and try and play along with some of the professionals doing it. Check out part 2 where we'll talk about adding tremolo to that melody, which is kind of the normal thing to do with this melody, and we'll also look at some harder chord shapes to make that more interesting. Please hit subscribe while you're here, and if you've enjoyed what you've heard, all tabs are available at the link below, and we'll see you in a few weeks for part 2.